Let's go, baby. Football card collecting and investing. Merry Christmas. A happy new year around the corner. And obviously, Andy, we're getting up to the playoffs, right? And we'll talk about Mr. Joe Burrow, baby. People doubted him. You never snubbed this man for a Pro Bowl again. A 525 spot. We'll get to that in a second. I'm only just a little excited about that, Andy. Just a little excited about that. But obviously the most important thing is we want to answer as many questions and from listeners of the podcast nationwide. And Andy, the number one question we've been getting in your Discord community is about focusing on playoff players, but not just playoff players, but potentially free agents and guys that may or may not make the playoffs.
Just a little excited, huh?
Just a little.
Yeah, man. The end is near. You got fantasy football championships this week. So after this week, fantasy football seasons are done. You have 1 week left after that in the regular season. Then we start the playoffs. You still got a lot of teams on the bubble in the AFC. One that jumps off to me are the Chargers. And it's like, man, what if you got out there a Justin Herbert rookie card and you were dead set on selling that in the playoffs, expecting the Chargers to make that playoff run, and you've got some Mike Williams, some Keenan Allen, some Justin Herbert? Do you still try and sell it in January thinking that, people are reflecting on the football season, looking at the top performers in all position categories and statistical categories? Or do you hold it potentially for the draft, potentially for 2022? And then you talk about quick flips. Are the only guys left to quick flip on going to be the teams in the playoffs and in the Super Bowl, Carter? And I think that's going to be where the highest sales volume is going to go, are guys that are in the playoffs and making it to the Super Bowl.
Quick flips are hard at this point, Andy, simply because we always say this. When you buy a card, it still has to get to you. And then you still have to go through the listing process. So the quick flip thing is kind of tough at this point, as only a few players are actually going to make the playoffs, because there are a bunch of really good players on really bad teams. So it's important to understand that quick flipping is a little bit tough. But obviously, Andy, this is going to be the question that you're going to keep getting, is what should you do about these bubble playoff players? I will say this. It is interesting, Andy, going back to last year, looking at sales volume of how a player's market can go down after a playoff loss. And I do think it's important to look into that before we actually get into the playoffs.
Yeah, definitely important to look into that. Have your cards listed, ready to go. You got to be more vigilant on opening your packages when you get them. And part of my new process, and this is a little bit more painful, it's not as enjoyable as going through the cards and just reveling in their beauty and everything. But I've been, as I open them and I record, so I create content. So I'm recording my mail days, but then immediately following that, I'm taking the time to take pictures front and back in good lighting, like listing them as I open them, because if not, I end up putting them on my table and I have like a stack of cards that then becomes a gargantuan task to list. And then I'm not ready. Like there were some T. Higgins cards, some Joe Burrow cards I wish I had ready Sunday. Now I've already sold a few since then. And I think that's what you kind of have to do as soon as you catch wind of anything or you're watching games. If your cards aren't listed, like list them immediately, get them on there, buy it now, ready to go. Because once they get knocked out of the playoffs, if they don't make the playoffs, I think you will see a dip there for a short time period, except for, Carter, I think certain skill position players, certain quarterbacks, certain players, period, that have been very good statistically throughout this season that are on pretty big market teams. I think those guys are still going to see postseason demand in January, just based on the elevated football card market activity as a whole. People done with their fantasy season, so now they have more time. You got Christmas bonuses, year-end bonuses, that kind of stuff in January, plus more time equals more focus, more resources to dedicate to football cards.
It is interesting because you take a guy like DK Metcalf, who's just obscenely talented, obscenely marketable. His prices, of course, have gone down because, of course, he's on a bad team. Now, they're still somewhat expensive, but still, if you really believe DK Metcalf is this transcendent, otherworldly, very marketable talent, that could be someone you can look into as far as investing. Darnell Mooney is another guy that is on a bad team who I think is going to be a really good wide receiver over the next couple of years. So these are guys that aren't on playoff teams. All the wide receivers that we like for the Denver Broncos, or if you're a big time Javonte Williams believer, that's someone else you can look into. And those are just the skill guys. And Andy, this is key, all right, because it kind of dives into the person of the hour, which is Joe Burrow. You know, the prices of some of the quarterbacks this past weekend really did some wild things. And the guy by far who led the way was, of course, our saint, my dear beloved leader, Joe freaking Burrow.
Yeah, man. 525 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, 143.2 passer rating, historic game. So he passed for 900 yards against a single team. That's the Baltimore Ravens in the season. That breaks the record previously held by Joe Montana and Dan Marino. So fairly historic game he had yesterday. And, you know, when asked if that comment about giving him the gold jacket was on his mind, he said, maybe. You know, he's playing a little chip on his shoulder. But the hobby reacted insane. So he had roughly 1,900 rookie card sales from Sunday and Monday. And I did that Monday night. Last night I looked at that. And the top sale was an RPA on card auto numbered out of 5 that sold for $40,000. $40,000. And so what's interesting is I compared this to Josh Allen because Josh Allen actually had the highest PFF grade of any quarterback from Sunday. And he got his revenge against the New England Patriots. And he was absolutely, as one of my good Bills friends, Mafia friends, calls it, you know, bending the matrix out there with some of those throws that he was just evading pressure and, across the field on his back foot. So he had a 91 PFF grade. He had the highest grade by any QB against the Patriots defense this season. And that was a must-win game for playoff implications. And so that was huge. And he's only 2 years younger than Joe Burrow, but he only had 350 rookie card sales. And his highest sale was a gold prism RPA numbered out of 10 that sold for 7,200.
Wow, 40,000 compared to 7,000. And you know what's funny? I never actually looked at their ages. Is Josh Allen and Joe Burrow? I'm guessing their ages are very, very similar, even though Josh Allen came out earlier. Joe Burrow, of course, was a fifth-year player. You know what's very fascinating about it is, Andy, I actually made a play on a few Joe Burrow cards on Saturday on Christmas Day because I thought he was going to go off on the Ravens. Now, I didn't think he was going to do what he did, but he did it. I'm not sure if Burrow's prices are ever going to go down. I've always believed in him. I always thought he was going to be absolutely transcendent in the NFL because I saw what he did for LSU. I saw how he evaded rushers in the pocket. It was more than just Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He's special. He rises everyone else's performance. There were a few plays in that Ravens game where he had to evade pressure. Now, what's really interesting about it is he's nowhere close the athlete Josh Allen is when it comes to obviously scrambling and obviously just pure arm strength. But Joe Burrow is just really freaking good. There's just no other way to describe it. He's just good at every aspect of it. And despite Joe Burrow not having a great arm, his deep passing plays is what sets him apart. When we think of great arms, we think Justin Herbert and Josh Allen, right? Obviously, Aaron Rodgers. But Joe Burrow just still gets the ball down the field. I was a little shocked at how crazy the card market got, though. I really was, Andy. I didn't think it would be as insane because I actually looked at the sales volume as well. Man, dude, they were just flying off the racks. And look, this wasn't happening. I almost bought a Joe Burrow PSA 10 for $150 last week. There's no telling where that thing is going to go now. Just its base Prism PSA 10. But the truth of the matter, and this is why I started looking into some Burrow plays, is that Justin Herbert's prices were way higher than Joe Burrow prices. Not astronomically higher, but probably for, each card parallel, Justin Herbert was at least $100 more in a PSA 10 format compared to Joe Burrow. And Andy, I think that's something people can look at when you're comparing sets is look at this quarterback's price, look at this quarterback's price, and see if you can, make up the difference. Because I always thought Joe Burrow is better than Justin Herbert. I could be totally wrong about that. But once I saw Joe Burrow's prices under Justin Herbert's prices, I was like, okay, let me go on ahead and buy these now.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. That's a great comping strategy, great comparing strategy, comparing similar guys in the same draft class. I think a big reason for this is that because the expectation coming into the season was so much higher for Justin Herbert based on the Rookie of the Year performance, based on the fact Joe Burrow was coming off of that knee injury and the preseason training camp, all that, the reports out of that was terrible about Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. So that's why his card prices have stayed down until this historic performance yesterday. And sure, yeah, he's fluctuated throughout the season with some great games, and they've struggled some other weeks. But this past week was like, oh, and now they're first place in the AFC East division. So now they're in first place. They're in playoff contention. Historic game. We're right here at the end. And it's like, oh man, is this gonna be the start of a Joe Burrow deep playoff run?
And Andy, I found this to be fascinating. So I had you on my ESPN radio show. So I'm a fill-in guy for an ESPN station in South Carolina. I had you on. I had Adam Palmer from Heroes for Sale on, and we discussed quarterbacks, right? And it's interesting because just a month or so ago, Kyler Murray was the hot buy. And now that things have gotten a little rough, it's switched up on us now as far as Kyler Murray. And then Dak Prescott had the game that he had this past weekend. What did you and I were talking about this before the episode, Andy? What did the prices on their sales tell you as we get ready for the playoffs?
So it tells me that there was more expectation on. So going back to Josh Allen, I think the reason why Josh Allen did not see the same spike that Joe Burrow saw is you have the variance of their draft year. So just to clarify, you are right. They're both 25 or maybe almost 26 now, but they're both the same age. However, Josh Allen is drafted 2 years earlier than Joe Burrow. But I think that plays a factor because when you look at cards, the print run has gone up year over year since 2016. Let's take 2016 because I want to talk about Dak in a second. Dak was drafted in 2016, Josh Allen 2018, Joe Burrow 2020. And the expectations were much higher for Josh Allen coming into the season. So you saw Josh Allen's biggest rookie card sales back in September, whereas you're now seeing Joe Burrow's biggest. So basically, Josh Allen has got to do more, has got to string more games together to get the same demand spike that Joe Burrow is seeing from virtually one game, And I think the same thing is true for Dak Prescott. I looked at Dak Prescott's sale. He had a ridiculous first half in yesterday's game, to the point where they benched him. He was 27 for 35, 342 yards, 4 touchdowns, a 42-7 lead going into halftime. And the man only had 175 rookie card sales from Sunday and Monday. His gold vinyl, 1 out of 1, dual patch auto with him and Zeke's on-card signature, and a BGS 9.5 sold for $3,500. I also found a Dak numbered out of 5, very comparable to the Joe Burrow RPA that sold for $40,000. This was a PSA 10 from Dak too, and it sold for $3,350.
I still can't get over that Joe Burrow sale for $40,000. It just seems a little weird. You know, we always talk about being skeptical of everything that you see, especially if a card goes for that much. Let's just say that buy was actually pretty authentic. That goes to show you that cartoonish games that are really historic, because Joe Burrow's 525-yard game, Andy, was very historic. There were a lot of people buying cards, I'm pretty sure, that were also Justin Herbert buyers, and were like, okay, I've got to get some Burrows. I only bought Herbert because, you know, he's more athletic. He has a bigger arm, and he plays in LA. And then, you know, people are like, okay, Joe Burrow is a real deal. I got to go buy him too. I felt that this past weekend. You could just see it in the card community. And look, the bottom line is this: Joe Burrow is really special. AFC North, it's the Bengals for the next couple of seasons. And it's not, Andy, just Joe Burrow. It's who he has around him, right?
Oh, yeah.
Top 5 running back in the NFL. I think it's pretty consensus. You would say Joe Mixon is no worse than top 7 or 8. T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. Name a younger wide receiver duo you would take over those two guys right now. Kind of hard. I mean, maybe CD and Gallup. I don't know. Justin Jefferson and whoever else. I don't know. Thielen's a little up there in age. Offensive line's going to get better, right? Defense is going to get better. They got Hendrickson. They're going to have more pieces. And I just really like the Bengals' future. Jamar and T. Higgins are really special. And this is something else. Don't be too quarterback focused. And Andy, we didn't include this in our prep, but I've got to show you some love, because a little bit later we're going to get into a few of our misses. If you were a member of the Patreon community, there are time-stamped, evidenced videos and content in the Discord and on your channel about buying which wide receiver, Andy. Who did you tell everyone to buy earlier in the season?
It was T. Higgins, man.
And you were right on the daggum money, as T. Higgins was by far the wide receiver 1 this past weekend with the 40-point fantasy performance, which is just insane. T. Higgins is just insane. I wish the Saints would have selected him over Cesar Ruiz in the first round. T. Higgins was a second-round pick. Him and Jamar Chase, that's just so deadly. T. Higgins might end up being the alpha in that offense. I mean, he's really, really, really special. And once again, don't get it twisted. The Ravens, they were playing with their backup secondary. I totally get it. But who cares? The card market doesn't care. Andy, T. Higgins cards were flying this weekend. Soaring, Andy. Soaring. And if people would have just bought it, what were they? They were $2 earlier this season.
Talking that base or that base short print here, like optic hollows or field level silvers, you were getting them for less than $10 routinely. I was actually buying, my strategy evolved to buying more rare cards with on card autographs. You know, I love that rookie ticket auto. I was winning those in auctions for around $20. I've listed them since Sunday, and I've already sold a couple, plus I'm getting offers. Like, I'm getting offers right now. People are trying to, and I've got so many watchers on some of these cards that I'm like, I'm not accepting offers. I know it's going to sell this week for what I'm asking for it, which is it's a little bit over 100% what I paid for it. So yeah, and that's the thing. We knew I mean, like, look at how good Trevor Lawrence was in college, and now look how much he's struggling in the deep ball arena this year. And I'm sure, yeah, there's other factors. I get it. the whole offensive line, the play calling, all that kind of stuff. But look how good T. Higgins is at the point of catch. I mean, the dude is an absolute baller, Carter. Little quick stats on him. He had about 489 rookie card sales Sunday and Monday. And in comparison, his flawless 2 out of 5 RPA on card auto sold by it now for $400.
Ooh, that's a lot,
Which is really
man.
good for skill position. Like his cards are climbing.
That's a lot.
Yeah, this is just the beginning of his ascension because of those few games that he missed with the injury. It took some people some time to come back around because so much focus shifted to Jamar Chase.
Andy, you were right. And if people would have just jumped on it then, that's all they had to do is be a part of the Discord community. And a lot of people paid dividends. And I shouted you out in the Discord for that. And look, we're right about some things. We're wrong about some other things. So we'll get that in a second. But obviously, that's why, you really got to do the research. You got to say, okay, we know Joe Burrow's going to get better. If Joe Burrow's going to get better, that T. Higgins guy is probably going to come along with them. So once again, I just wanted to shout you out on that. Also, something else that we were right about was Jake Fromm, who is absolutely garbage. What did I say last week, Andy? It just
sell the F word out of your Jake F word cards.
and
you can.
And I hope everyone did because you missed your window.
Let's just say the Eagles defense single-handedly won my fantasy playoff matchup this past week.
Yeah, I mean Ian Book, same thing as well. But Ian Book, that was his first start ever. A lot of people went crazy over Jake Fromm because he had that one Kenny Golladay touchdown, and it was bad. But look, I think we have smart enough viewers to know to not buy Jake Fromm on the hype cycle. However, Andy, a lot of people right now are shivering me timbers over Mac Jones. What did I say on here? Stay away. Stay the freak away. And Andy, people just couldn't do it. People could not save themselves. They saw a quarterback who looks like Tom Brady, playing for the New England Patriots, won a national championship at Alabama, says and does all the right thing, has that golden boy look. Andy, he's not that great. And I feel really bad for the people that pumped all their save. I mean, really, the sales were just insane on Mac Jones. Patriots are still going to make the playoffs, but man, I don't know what to tell people right now, Andy. What would you say?
I would say get them listed if you haven't already and continue to try and sell them. The Patriots have obviously asked him to do more and more these last few weeks, and he's not been able to deliver. He's been delivering more and more mistakes as they ask him to do more and more, but his cards are still selling for a very elevated price point over all the other 2021 rookie quarterbacks, namely guys that we really like Justin Fields. Looks like Trey Lance is going to get a start this weekend. So we could see an uptick in demand for him if he comes out and plays well. But I'm still seeing pretty good prices on Mac Jones. It's not as good as it was 3 weeks ago, but I still think the Patriots are a good shot to clinch a playoff spot. And so I still think that now is a good time to sell those Mac Jones and take those profits.
Same thing with Zach Wilson after he gets a win over Trevor Lawrence, especially with Mosaic. It may have already hit the shelves. I know the release date's already passed. I haven't really seen anything yet. Mosaic, Prism, and everything else is coming out. It's probably smart just to sell those rookies anyway, but I'm glad you brought up Trey Lance. I would have Trey Lance cards ready to be listed, if not just list them already, because if he just stinks, well, they're not going to sell. But if he does ball out, I would take advantage of this window right now because Trey Lance does play for an iconic brand. And look, he's got high upside. He really does. He's an amazing athlete. So, Andy, if I were out there right now, I don't have much Trey Lance. I sold most of the stuff that I pulled out of a few Donruss Fat Packs. I would go on ahead and make sure those are listed.
Yeah, I would too. I would too. I think this is a great time to capitalize on profit, especially Carter. We talk about new product being released. So Mosaic's working its way out, but pretty soon you're going to have starting to have more and more product as we get into the new year released for 2021 athletes, and that's going to dilute, the demand for maybe the rated rookies that you have right now, or the absolutes, or the rookies and stars, some of those, kind of cards.
Hobby tip of the week, Andy. It's pretty simple. I actually have two. Once again, it's a tip that we've already made. Release dates aren't always going to be accurate. I haven't seen, I've been searching. Have you seen any 2021 Mosaic anywhere, or was there an official announcement that they pushed the date back?
That is a great question, Carter. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, or maybe it was just let's see.
It might have just been hobby release, but even then, you would have seen something. The first tip though, with release dates on Steel City or Cardboard Connections or whatever, they're not always going to be accurate. So that's the first thing. The second hobby tip of the week, I want to talk about rainbow and color matches really quickly. We'll do an episode this off season on just that. The first thing is color match is a real thing. And for those that don't know what color matching is, Andy, it's essentially when the color of the parallel matches the jersey uniform or the jersey color itself. So a color match for Joe Burrow would be an orange parallel, so like an orange prism or an orange refractor. With CD Lamb cards pop a little bit more when they are blue refractors or blue prism. So Andy, as far as color matches, just and this is more so for like Twitter and Instagram, really. I see a lot of people flaunting color match cards. My friend Mint, that's all he does. He just freaking loves that color match. It does make it pop, and I do think the hobby is kind of caught up on that.
I do think the hobby is caught up on. I think card manufacturers have kind of caught up on that as well, because you see more and more base cards just kind of have those team colors built into it. And I think that you absolutely see an increased demand in cards that match, like for the Buccaneers, that red and the orange, or Bengals, those reds, those oranges, maybe even those black type of colors in the cards that really correlate well with the player's uniform. Definitely see an increased demand in that. And you're right, Carter. The dates have been pushed back for Mosaic to January 12th. So there you go.
There you go. The second thing is rainbows. All right. So for those that don't know what a rainbow is, it's collecting every variation of that card. So right now I'm putting together a Tyrann Mathieu rookie rainbow of the rookie impact. I have the 1/1 down here somewhere. So what a rainbow is just collecting all the different color variations of a certain card. Okay. Now, here's the thing, Andy. There's two important things about rainbows. The first thing is it's very expensive. There's no other way around it. When you're building a rainbow, obviously it depends on the player, but still rainbows can get very, very pricey because you got to buy very rare variations of the card. So I am currently putting together a Tyrann Mathieu rainbow. There's only 8 variations of this rookie impact insert. So I still need 2 more of them. But here's the thing. Number one, it's going to be expensive. Number two, and I don't remember who said this on Twitter, but it was a pretty profound statement about building a rainbow. I think it was one of the Dallas card investor guys. I don't remember, but crap, I'm trying to phrase it correctly. If you have the 1/1 of a rainbow and you don't have any other variations of the card, you are closer to completing the rainbow than if someone else has all the other variations of the card but doesn't have the 1/1. if that makes sense, right? It's pretty, I didn't word it correctly at all, but you get my drift. If you are to build a rainbow, the first and most important thing you need is the one of one, because there's only one of them. And the quicker you get in your possession, the cheaper it's probably going to be. So understand that if you, I don't want anyone, Andy, to want to really complete a rainbow and get to the one of one and then them not be able to get it. So if you are to build a rainbow, if you want every last variation on every on the checklist or whatever, you got to get the one of one first before you do anything else.
It makes sense, man. It's like that one of one is 80% of the entire rainbow in terms of like scarcity and value and just like difficulty to obtain. So you speaking of one of ones, Carter, do you know there was a couple one of ones sold this past Sunday for an up and coming running back that was at very good prices. Kind of like wishing, like after doing a lot more research into this guy this week, this is gonna be my play of the week. That I'm wishing I would have got these one of ones, but I think there might be a couple more out there. So it was Keyshawn Vaughn on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and so this is just to illustrate how well the performance driven or how well the football card market is being driven by performance. You know, given you're on a team that is winning, that's doing well, and a player steps in, we talk about the lack of prior performance creating bigger demand spikes. Well, Keyshawn Vaughn literally only had about 9-10 carries on Sunday, but one of those was a 55-yard touchdown run. He had a nice stiff arm, a couple jukes, broken tackles, took it to the house, and the guy actually had 2 one of one sell on Sunday. Plus he had 75 buy it now solds on Sunday and Monday. And if you look at the prior week, week 15, he literally only had 12. So massive increase in sales volume. Also, his biggest sales of the year occurred just this past Sunday on those one of ones that went for $120.
Keyshawn Vaughn, one of one.
Keyshawn Vaughn, one of one, with the laundry tag for 120.
Very interesting. I guess that's not the absolute worst purchase in the world if you are getting the one of one. But still, it's Keyshawn Vaughn, right?
Okay, so get this. Bruce Arians, after the game on Sunday, said that Keyshawn Vaughn is quote-unquote a lead dog. And you add in the fact that Leonard Fournette is going to be a free agent after this year. Ronald Jones is going to be a free agent after this year. And Le'Veon Bell, I mean, he's pretty much done with his career, even though we just picked him up. I'm not sure how many people have even realized that yet. But, I mean, he got 3 carries on Sunday. I don't expect him to do much, hardly if anything. He's just there for added depth, and he was so cheap. But he'll be a free agent as well. So Keyshawn Vaughn from Vanderbilt, drafted in the 3rd round, had a 90% dominator score at Vanderbilt, 77th percentile college target share, drafted in the 3rd round, 5'10", 214. I think Keyshawn Vaughn's the future of the Tampa Bay running backs.
Ooh.
You can get his cards so cheap. I'm looking at rookie ticket autos selling for, well, now they're around $20, but before this past week, those were $10 cards. I mean, literally, that's how cheap his cards were.
Well, since you're so right on the T. Higgins thing, I'm going to agree with you here. I just don't see it. I mean, he was good at Vanderbilt. No, don't get it twisted. I don't know. I just think he's a guy. I just do. I will say this, though. I thought the one of one you were going to bring up was that Jonathan Taylor Shield immaculate rookie on card auto one of one in a PSA 9. Once again, Andy, people talk about this all the time about grading one of ones. It is what it is. But anyway, it went for $4,700. That's a lot for a running back. That's a lot. And I'm very pro.
He's run away with the #1 rushing title this year, and it's, I mean, the Colts are like that sneaky dark horse team right now to make a deep playoff run in the AFC.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you right now, was that a good buy for that person? Let's just say that person was an investor, and you're not spending $4,700 on a JT 1 of 1. I mean, that is the grail. That is a Jonathan Taylor grail.
It is, but I mean, the thing is, you have a lot more collectors, investors that are just focused, especially high end guys that are not going to really touch skill position players at all. You know, they're focused. So now you're limiting your potential buyer base down to, you know, a small pool of people, and them willing to pay that much for a running back that is still, I mean, yes, he's had a phenomenal 2020 season, but I mean, this is just his second season. There's a lot of volatility in that position. So he's still a long ways away from creating any type of history or being a Hall of Famer. So it's still very speculative. That's a lot of money for a speculative buy like that, especially on a running back. I don't know, man. That's my opinion.
So I'll say this. We are the most pro skill position and defensive player channel you'll ever see, because the hobby is 99% just guys that want quarterbacks, right? But at the same time, even though we are very pro skill guys, the only cards you see up here are Jeremy Hill and Tyrann Mathieu. Okay, those are the two players I really PC the most. Okay, which is why, you know, I have the Jeremy Hill. He's a friend now, and he's just awesome dude, right? I'm as pro defensive player as anyone. I don't get that Jonathan Taylor buy at all. It just doesn't, unless you're a Jonathan Taylor super fan and you had to have that card. But this is very key, Andy, when you are buying bigger cards. Okay, so I'm very transparent. I bought the biggest card I've ever bought this past Saturday on Christmas, which was a Joe Burrow on card HGA for a few $100. It was $370. That was the final price. $400 total. Okay. I'll show it when I get it in. I'll show it, right? Because Andy, you're not a super high end buyer. It's just not really our thing. Now, if we become millionaires through this podcast, we'll start getting into the Patrick Mahomes 1 of 1s. We'll get in there. But Andy, it's one of those things where you always got to keep this in mind if you're making a play on a card. How much room does that card have to grow, right? Mm-hmm. So, like for me, the Joe Burrow card that I bought this past weekend, it was like plates and patches, numbered 9 out of 50, so serial numbered, and it's an on-card autograph. It made sense for me at that price to go for that card. I think that card has room to grow. You always, even if you're getting a surefire Hall of Famer for a card price, if you are doing it for investing and flipping reasons, Andy, it's very important for that person to think, is that something that I can actually sell for more than what I just bought it for?
Yeah, I mean, I think about that every single time, Carter. You're not kidding, man, because that's a big part of my strategy. That kind of eliminates a lot of players for me because right. I am persistent. I'm going to make sure that I'm buying in on the low end of that tier, whatever the player is. I'm going to comp them out against their peers. I'm also going to try and find a comparable card and from the same card set and parallel and comp that out as well and look at the available listings and to get a sense if I'm buying in at the low end of that tier, the mid end or the high end, and then correlate that with like where they're at in their career or what's the performance metrics that are driving this demand, you know, spike. Where am I getting in at in this whole scheme of things? And if it's on the high end, like Jonathan Taylor right now, I won't do it. I won't do it.
Mistakes. We'll get to this really quickly. My biggest mistake was Dwayne Haskins. Bought a Dwayne Haskins PSA 10 silver, and I should not have bought that card. Now, Andy, we've had plenty of for just horrible mistakes. Buying cards right when they're released is one that you and I have both made. I'm sure Andy's room or mistakes in his past is probably not as bad as mine. Oh, Danny Dimes. But don't worry, Andy. Don't worry. The Giants say that they're still confident. They are still they are putting more faith into Joe Judge and Danny Dimes for the future. That doesn't make you feel any better?
A little bit, but not for the cards that I have. So this is a combination of, picking, and I didn't pay much for these cards. I paid 20 for 30 to each of these, but what I bought was base optic and PSA 9 and PSA 8 format, thinking that worst case scenario, they would go up to $30 to $40 at least, or $40 to $50 at least, and I'd be able to make a nice little profit. But I mean, they're base cards. B, it's Daniel Jones, and he's had another subpar year, struggled with injuries as well, and the Giants as a whole struggled. So it's just been another lost year for him. And if I were to want to sell cards of his, I'm going to need to definitely have something that's way more scarce than this right here.
Yeah. Scarcity is important. The only reason I didn't buy that Joe Burrow base PSA 10 is just because it's base, right? We touched on this in an episode a few weeks ago about base cards. Me and you are mostly staying away from it now. It still doesn't mean that that's not good or bad investing opportunities, but it's just something that I'm staying away from. Also, in the hobby, even though this is a different sport, the big joke right now in the hobby right now is the Zion Williamson PSA 10 count. The pop count, Andy, is 20,000. 20,000. So once again, it's just ridiculous now as far as pops are concerned. So before I give play of the week, I want to shout out Jay, one of the patrons. Sent me a nice Tyrann Mathieu card that I didn't have for the PC already. So Jay, thank you so much. As always, thank you to people that send us stuff. That's always really cool. And if you want to send us something, once again, feel free to message or just comment down below or join our Patreon at patreon.com/footballcards. Andy, play of the week. I'll let you go first.
Well, so I do really like Keyshawn Vaughn right now. It's kind of investing for the future, investing for 2022. Some play right now still that I think are possible. So go back to your base card comment, because we talked about this in a couple episodes ago, and we still do see transactions on base cards. The problem is the ROI, like the jump on those, right? The jump on the work you have to put in to buy that card, get it back, relist it, sell it, for a potential moving that card from $3 to $6 or $9 is a lot of work for a very little bit of return. Now, I got a good friend that Raven that does this a lot on ComC digitally, to where he buys them at volume for pennies on the dollar and gets them on the first page. And some of the guys that he's flipping right now are like Amon-Ra St. Brown on the Detroit Lions. And so he's doing these kind of immediate flips by buying these, looking at their athletic profiles, getting in on them early, and buying their base cards, their base rated rookie cards, because right now there is a perception of limited supply on a platform like that, because it takes time for people to pull them from packs and submit them up to ComC, get them uploaded into the website. And so for a time period, it looks like there's a limited supply, and people are actually buying those because they have a push through to eBay where you can purchase them from eBay. And so it's like this quick flip thing. So just wanted to bring that up with that play of the week right there.
Yeah, so check out ComC, check out StarStock as well for those quick flips. You could get really good prices on there. And we were talking about earlier, Andy, the time I just slobbered a little bit. That was smooth. The time it takes for a card to come to you and then relist it and then put it back out. With StarStock and ComC, you could just buy a card and just post it right then and just sell it right then.
You could. I would stick to ComC because of the fact that they have actual scans, actual pictures backing the card that you're buying. What we've seen StarStock shift to a lot now is people basically hunting their website, kind of like Beckett Marketplace. They don't have actual pictures of the cards, but they give it like an arbitrary grade. And based on their pre-grading process, kind of looking at it, like probably like kind of how we look at it here. But, they have this database, and you can go there and you can get consolidated shipping. So you can buy 10, 20, 30, 40 cards and then have one shipping fee of $4.99, and then you can have that sent directly to ComC and upload. That's kind of what Sean does because he's out of the country. And
Interesting.
There's some legwork involved, but it has been successful for him. He sells volume every month of these base cards or base short print cards. I mean, he made like 20x on his money on Micah Parsons recently in the past couple weeks. So everything's on the table for him. And he understands the supply and demand effect of these new guys, these 2021 rookies, like Micah, like Javonte Williams, like some of these other guys, 2021 rookies, that has the perception of a limited supply of the rated rookies on ComC. And so he takes advantage of that.
And that's Raven Invest, right?
Yeah, that's Raven Invest.
Dude, he's a beast. My goodness gracious. Wow. First of all, I didn't know you lived out of the country. And the second thing, I didn't know that you could do that. I didn't know you could do that and scan. I just love that hustle. I'm laughing at how genius that is, right? So buy all the StarStock piece. That's genius. That is so I don't know why I think that is so good. I wish I was that smart. I never thought about that. I just never thought about that. Wow. You see, that's why, sometimes, with the Patreon, because, I have my full-time job of doing the LSU channel, I'm not able to look at every message. And I follow Raven Invest somewhat closely because, you and him have all this price research that's just insane. So, yeah. Let me ironically, my play of the week is Lamar Jackson. So shout out to the Ravens. Lamar's one of the biggest stars in the NFL, right? Lamar's barely played, and he still got in the Pro Bowl over Joe Burrow and Josh Allen. Now, really think about that, okay? Josh Allen, Bills Mafia, their fans are crazy. They voted like crazy for him to get in. Joe Burrow, an SEC writer named Connor O'Gara wrote a very interesting tweet. Joe Burrow's probably like the most universally beloved player. I mean, my girlfriend's family from Alabama, they're all Alabama fans. They freaking love Joe Burrow. There's something about him that people just freaking love. And Lamar has barely played, and he's had some awful, awful performances, and he still made the Pro Bowl over both of them. So that goes to show you Lamar's got a huge fan base. Obviously, he's not playing. The Ravens are on a downturn. He's already got an MVP. Lamar Jackson, I would look into buying a few of his cards because if he does come back and he does ball out, people are going to be going back to buying Lamar cards. So keeping a good eye out for the former Heisman Trophy winner and MVP and one of the most marketable, insanely popular athletes in American sports right now. So there you go.
Fun episode. I'm looking at this right now. His base prism is over half. I mean, it's half of what Josh Allen's. Josh Allen's are over double more expensive than Lamar's.
And one more thing on the base prism thing. Josh Allen's base prism before the year was what, like $900 for a PSA 10? It's $540 now, Andy.
Yeah, I noticed that.
40.
He's going to have to do a lot more to get back to that level of where the expectation was coming at the season. His one ace in the hole. If you want to see his base prism cards go back to that, potentially eclipse that, get to the next level, he's going to have to win the Super Bowl, Carter.
That's it. That's why it's key to always, whenever you buy a card, think of how much room it has to grow. You got to factor in pop count. You got to factor in price. Got to factor in the player. That's why I kept saying, stay away from buying Josh Allen before the season, because $940 for a base prism PSA 10. Are you kidding me? And if you did that, I'm sorry that you did. But that's why you got to listen to the show, Andy. We will not lead you astray. We might miss. Andy might buy Daniel Jones. I might buy Dwayne Haskins. But we don't make mistakes that often, especially when it comes to something like that. Andy, it was a great episode, man.
Yes, sir. It sure was. It sure was, man. I got a couple more misses that I hit on too.
Okay. Go on ahead, man.
You know, I bought them really low. I was just going to throw one more out there. Denzel Mims. I bought quite a few Denzel Mims. Nothing high end. This was back when I was like investing in optic hollows, you know, mosaic silvers, that kind of stuff. And, you know, I do have a nice, like I have probably like 50 Denzel Mims cards over here. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I'm hoping that, you know, it can turn it around someday.
And with that, we'll see you next week, baby. Peace.
See you guys. See you next week. Peace.